Thank you so much for joining us. I've got Bronwyn with me today, and we're going to be talking about communication in the hybrid work environment. But before I get into the questions that I've got for you, can you give everybody an introduction?
Sure, I'd be happy to. I'm Bronwyn Saliambeni, and I am an authentic communication coach. So I help people communicate as their authentic selves, not as this sort of overly polished robot version that we think everybody wants, but the real us. And my power, my secret power, is helping people to connect with their most powerful selves and communicate from that place of power. And I've worked with all kinds of people from all kinds of different industries. I've helped CEOs prepare for board meetings or interviews on CNN. I've also helped my clients give over 150 TEDx and TED Global talks. I have helped people prepare for the Oprah show. You name it, I've done it. But my absolute favorite thing is helping people to communicate as their real, true selves with an audience. That's my jam. That's my gift.
Thank you so much for joining us. And I think you are probably one of the best people to talk to us about this idea of communicating authentically and well with employees as we kind of transition even further into the hybrid work environment. Yeah. So to get us started, I want to kind of get your take on how communication has changed or shifted since the onset of the pandemic, the quick rush to remote work, and now as we find ourselves further transitioning into hybrid work.
Yeah, it's changed in so many ways. But I think the most jarring change for us was going from the energy exchange of being in physical spaces with one another to the instantaneous drop of energy exchange, going into this two-dimensional space together. And I think we felt it so dramatically at the beginning. Now we sort of take it for granted. But that flood of sort of energy that we would feel, we would walk into a room and connect with people and ask them how their weekend was, or whatever the thing was that we would start meetings off with, it vanished overnight. And what it was replaced by for so many of us was a relentless, constant Zoom after Zoom or Microsoft Team after Microsoft Team meetings that started the minute we woke up and ended the minute, the sun went down. And when you switch out and we were stressed before the pandemic, but when you swap out those, the commute time, the exchange of energy in person, and you replace it with this two-dimensional back to back onslaught of meetings, what it left us with was a sense of burnout and a sense of sort of exhaustion I don't think any of us had ever experienced before. And I think over the past 3 years, I don't think we give each other and ourselves enough credit for just how abrupt that change was and just how well we did considering. And we had to learn how to infuse these two-dimensional conversations with energy and connection. And we did a great job of it. All things considered, we really made the best of it. But it was not easy, and it continues to not be easy. And I think we continue, actually, now that I'm back with teams face to face, I'm noticing that we are so much more shy than we used to be in groups because we've forgotten how to be fluid and easy with each other, with people we don't know well or that we haven't seen face to face. It's a huge adjustment, and I don't think we give ourselves enough grace to respond to that adjustment and be kind to ourselves through that adjustment and be mindful as communicators about how to communicate through that adjustment.
So where I want to go next is then maybe what suggestions or tips you have for leaders or really anybody, how to communicate with their teams effectively in this hybrid work environment, or maybe even going back into the office to regain that energy a little bit.
The good news is if you remember nothing else from this conversation, anybody listening, it's just this one tip I have for you that changes everything. And that is the tip of whether you're in person, virtual, hybrid, whatever, just ask yourself before you go in to meet with someone or some people, what is my intention? There is something about that question, what is my intention, that it raises our thinking state above sort of that panicky, anxious, bear down, got to get it done vibe into higher altitude where we can see at a higher visibility somehow what it is we need to do with the team, with a group that we're communicating with. So for example, if I've got 100 meetings stacked back to back and I'm a leader and I've got to communicate different things to different people and make sure that it lands, I'm going to be more successful if before those meetings I ask myself, what is my intention with this team? What is my intention in this meeting? Because from that place, we can say, my intention is to connect with them and to make sure they know this one thing or these three things, right? It just quiets the mind down long enough to figure out what is the essential message that needs to get across. That question, what is my intention, is magic. I heard this great quote the other day. Dr. Gabor Mate said, the road to hell is not paved with good intentions. The road to hell is paved with no intentions. And that's what happens to us. I mean, that's a dramatic example, but that's what happens to us when we just move from thing to thing to thing. And it's just that monkey mind, that perpetual unease that's driving us from one meeting to the next. It's like that bear down productivity mindset. We tend to over communicate and people don't take away anything because we said too many things, or we under communicate. We just assume that people should know the most important, most essential things. And when we take even just 60 seconds to say, what's my intention? That leads us to what's the absolute most important thing for this group to know? What's the most important thing for them to feel as they're leaving my meeting with me? And that's where great communication is born.
So you and I connected from a keynote that I saw you give about the idea of storytelling. And
Yes.
so I would love to hear your input on how, maybe going back to our intention, if I've got an intention of one thing that I want my team to take away from a meeting, how can I use storytelling to get that message across to them?
Here's the thing. I love that question. And storytelling, as I tell everybody, it's who we are as a species. We're all natural born storytellers. Now, some of us may be better than others. I'll give you that. But it's in us. So the question is then, how do we unlock it? And part of the problem, and it goes back to that sort of monkey mind, like perpetual panic mind that we run through the day with. If we've got a meeting, let's say my intention is to connect with these people and make sure they know thing X. And I say to myself, okay, the best way for me to get them to know thing X is to tell them a story about thing X. If I'm standing in front of my computer screen, multitasking and checking email for the 90th time that hour, I can't figure out what story is going to drive home X. My mind is too pulled in too many directions. The best thing to do is walk away from the screen for 5 minutes, take a walk, and free associate. What stories can I tell about X? What things are coming to mind? What metaphors? What will help me drive this point home in a way that's memorable? By the end of that 5-minute walk, you will have something. And that's the thing I train executives and all of my clients to do. We are natural storytellers. It's a matter of collecting stories, of being on the lookout for stories, and then creating the space for a story to assert itself, right? So for example, if I've got a podcast episode that I'm dropping and I want to talk about deep listening, active listening, I can give you all the tips, strategies, and techniques in the world. But if I open with a really good story, those tips, strategies, and techniques are actually going to stick. If I don't, and we just go straight to the nuts and bolts of active listening, people are going to tune out. But if I tell a story of a random conversation I had in the grocery store with someone that just stopped me in their tracks with their story, that's going to help my audience make connections and sink a little deeper into my conversation, sink a little deeper into what I'm saying, because we love stories. So the strategy is, number one, create 5 minutes even in your day to just get away from the screens and get away from all the multitasking long enough to allow your mind to free associate. That's the first thing. The second thing is become a good story collector. I have clients that use a spreadsheet where they just dump random stories so that when they need a story, they don't have to like panic and go rummaging around. They can pull up a spreadsheet and be like, oh, there's one. Let me take that story on a walk with me and see how I can make it work with this message, right? So those are the two most important things I can give you.
Thank you so much for joining me for the conversation. And anyone who's not, make sure you make your way over to Bronwyn's LinkedIn, follow her there. She mentioned the podcast, lots of great information that you can gather from listening to that if you're still working on perfecting communication, which I think every single one of us is. Thank you so much again for joining me, and have a wonderful day, everyone.
My pleasure. Thank you.
If you're looking for expert tips on how to get started with your transformation or looking to hone in on your approach, make sure that you subscribe to our channel to catch our weekly Digital Transformation Talk series, where we interview experts from around the world on how to make it happen.